Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
John, we made it till Friday. Here we are, it's Friday, right?
It's not just any Friday, it's a good Friday. And to quote your former co-host, Shelley Barr, it's Fry-yay. And to quote Brad Hildebrand, it just might be a Jason Rosenbaum Friday.
I don't know if it is. You have to check that.
You know what? When people say, by the way, I'll have to check that out, Brad, I'll have to check that out. You know what that means? That means I'm not going to look into it.
Okay, hold on a minute. John is...
I love when you tell people, like, by the way, I never promote my own stuff to people. And when people promote stuff to me or you hear people promoting their stuff to other people will say, oh, I'll have to check it out. Oh, I started watching Series 8 on Bravo about gay men and women fighting with housewives. Oh, yeah, I'll have to check it out. That means I will literally never watch that show.
Okay, I got my phone right here. I've got Jason Rosenbaum's text up here.
If you have a cell, I'm not going to text him to ask him this, but if you text him, I bet he might respond. He's definitely up this time of day.
Hey, Jason, are you on the noon show today? See, John throws down the gauntlet that, well, I check into it, meaning I'll never do it. Are you on the noon show today? ? John wants to know.
And Brad, when I say people will never follow through, I mean the people that say, well, I'll have to check it out. Well, like if you ever hear that from somebody, they're definitely not going to check it out.
It's a blow-off line. It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
Right,
but see, you will, because you care enough about Jason Rosenbaum.
I do, because he's one of the fresh spots of KWMU. You know, I had somebody the other day say to me, why do you get so upset about KWMU? Okay, I get upset because of the fact that it's government-controlled media, which it is. I mean, once again, it's like if you go back, maybe you're not old enough for this, John, but when you heard back in the day when the Soviet Union was around, Pravda, which was the official arm of the official news arm of the Soviet Union, if things were black, they would say they were white, and if things were white, they would say they were black. You know, whatever. It's almost like if you read. I mean, like back in the day, if you remember this, you're probably not old enough to remember this. The VP Fair, which was run by the Vail Prophet.
Excuse me, I went to the VP Fair many times, Brad. When I was still the VP Fair. Stop being ageist, Brad. Go ahead.
Well, one was run by the original one. When it was run by, they turned it into Fair St. Louis, but originally it was the VP Fair, the Vail Prophet Fair. And the running joke was there were, like, if they would give you the attendance statistic, there were 10 million people at the Arch Grounds today. Yeah. You go like, what? 10 million people? That's physically impossible. I mean, and the running joke was, a lot of times for like years, people would say like, well, I went to the so-and-so concert at the Dome, when we still had the Checker Dome back in the day, when we went to the so-and-so concert at the Checker Dome, and there were 12,000 people there, but the VP Fair organization said there were 200,000 people there. I mean,
well, I mean, just look at inflation numbers everywhere when you say, and I don't mean Biden inflation. I mean, like, everybody's going to exaggerate their numbers. By the way, Brad, point of fact before we begin. I am old enough to remember and to have attended Baden-Fest. Do you remember Baden-Fest?
I used to go to a doctor who had his offices in Baden. Yes, I know Baden quite well.
Yeah, it was like a real thing, and it was safe, and you could walk around and not get shot. And you know, Brad, North City Crime makes a cameo in our number one story today.
Oh, I bet you I know what it is. By the way, I just got a text. It says, no, it's every other Friday. My show was last week. So,
Oh, trats.
yeah, so it's not on today. Okay, we need to move. See, once again, I've just blown up John's thing. Well, I'll check into that.
Not at all. I'm the one that started it, Brad. And you know what? I believe that your feelings about public radio, they're a little bit like, in March and maybe even April, they're a little bit about how November, December, January, February went. You had to get a lot of stuff out of your system about another radio show. And regular listeners notice, Brad, or frequent listeners notice, that we don't talk about that other station anymore. Why? You got it out of your system.
What other station?
You're going to get public radio out of your system in a little while, and then we'll just be like, we'll talk about Rosenbaum in a whimsical way, as is our want, and people will be like, hey, you know what? I noticed they don't talk about St. Louis Public Radio that much anymore.
What other station that I talk about all the time? Tracy station?
Oh, I don't know. Who's Tracy, Brad?
No, seriously. Who?
Yeah.
Well,
we don't talk, but like we don't spend time. One of the good pieces of feedback I've gotten recently is that people say, a lot of radio insider talk, like we've covered it. We've given people a good education on it, and I think they're well grounded in how we feel about it, and they're experts in it now, right, Brad?
I don't think so.
I mean, I think they've heard enough of it. I think they've heard enough about it, and I think they're on the same page and they know where we're coming from.
Is this a subtle hint, John?
Well, hey, let's get into our top three today.
Okay. Who's the guy that's going to give us the top three?
I'm Casey Kasem. And here they are. In third place,
Brad, if I had done something horrific or you had done something horrific, I think our plan, probably the best PR plan we could do, was go find our favorite cousin and have our favorite cousin start talking to the media about what great scholars we were and how maybe we spoke multiple languages and how we played a sport. That appears to be from the playbook of the family of Marnise Decloux. She was the young woman who checked the integrity of Spanish Lake concrete by cracking a classmate's skull against it a few weeks ago, Brad. And this is Maurice Decloux, who attacked Kaylee Gain. Depending on who you listen to, it was a fair fight or maybe a not so fair fight. The point is, Decloux's family has dispatched her cousin to go out and talk a little bit about the more positive aspects of Marnise. Marnise played volleyball, Brad. She also spoke multiple languages. So I'm not sure, other than taking maybe a Spanish class at Hazelwood East, I don't know, maybe she took a lot of advanced classes in a Chinese school in
John,
Spanish Lake. There's a lot of those around.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Maybe she learned Mandarin. Go ahead, Brad.
I'm going to ask you a question. Is all this posturing so that if she gets certified as an adult, that they will have a lot of positive vibes for this young lady?
Yeah, it's influencing the jury. So, for example, Brad, we're going to talk about corporations in number one. If you were a large global multinational corporation that was getting sued a lot for your products or you're suing customers, you might want to start a philanthropic program and especially have it benefit communities at which your company will likely be sued in the next 3 to 5 years. I'm spitballing here, Brad. This is not based on any real story. But you want to do whatever you can to influence a potential juror pool and also just get your side of the story out there, Brad. If the local news babes at Channel 5 and Channel 4 are reading your talking points and people get to hear your side of the story, maybe your client will be less likely to spend time in the clink, and maybe people will see like, but wait a minute. That's that young Spanish Lake girl that probably spoke Mandarin and she played volleyball.
Well, and and the other thing I heard, we talked about this last week, the week before, she was an honor roll student. She was in the orchestra. And I'm going like, okay. Here's the thing. You went to school, you know people. I know people who are very accomplished, and some of them are not the kind of people you want to be around. I mean, like, let's take an example of someone in the national scene. Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is an attorney. Hunter Biden's father is the president of the United States. And you go, well, he's an attorney, and he was in the Navy, and he's done all these good things. Yeah, but he's done a lot of bad things too. So,
And look, here, we talked about this before too, Brad. Like, just speaking for myself, I don't fetishize intelligence. So if somebody is smart, like that's cool, that's great. And I mean, we're not supposed to say this in 2024, but a lot of that is genetic. Like your IQ and whatever you're able to process is probably genetic. I don't fetishize intelligence. If this girl wasn't particularly bright, or if she was, if she had a 3,000 IQ, it wouldn't matter to me. Like she still cracked a classmate's skull against the concrete.
Well, the whole thing's sad, and I think what's ultimately going to happen is this is Brad looking into the crystal ball. I think it's just going to fade from our top of mind awareness. She will be essentially handled as a juvenile. She'll be in juvenile custody for what is she, 15, 16, couple years, and then she'll be out. Once again, I mean.
The one other piece of hard news that's in this, Brad, is that 8 other teenagers have been referred to family court. So charges haven't been, I don't think, I'm scrolling through here quickly. But anyway, at least 8 other teenagers who were involved in that giant melee, that mob brawl,
and I think
have been referred to family court.
And I think that's interesting that you bring that up because it wasn't just 2 girls fighting it out. There were quite a few.
Sure.
There were quite a few other people, swings being thrown and people being pushed around and stuff like that. Okay, here we go.
Up a notch to number 2.
Number 2 story comes from Springfield, Missouri. Our friend Elijah Haar down at KWTO had a conversation with Eric Schmidt a couple days ago. And Eric Schmidt really ran through the gamut. We won't run through all of it here today, Brad, or recap all of it. But Eric Schmidt touched on the big tech censorship case. He gave a little bit of color in terms of really what the controversy was about. Biden administration officials using these third parties to censor voices about COVID. And also Senator Schmidt talked a little bit about his feelings about the November election. He says he feels confident about President Trump. Now, any Republican is going to say that, but I think Eric gave a little bit more color there. Eric also talked about the congressional baseball game, which is coming up in June. Senator Schmidt had a hell of a performance last year, Brad. He hit cleanup. He had a triple that cleared the bases. It was a great moment for the senator. And interestingly, Brad, one thing that you'll be interested in, besides the Senator Schmidt stuff, Elijah and his co-host Garrett, they do a great job down there on their show. One of the cool things they have a daily snake draft that they do. And I'm not sure if it's daily, but they do a snake draft where they go back and forth and they pick things. And I thought of you yesterday, Brad, because their pick yesterday were best fast food menu items. If you had to pick only one best fast food menu item, what would it be, Brad?
My favorite fast food item?
Yes, yours.
Man, I don't know. It's sort of hard to say. I mean, I'm a burger guy. I mean, and I can tell you the pluses and minuses of various burgers. I don't know. I mean, that's tough to say. I would have to say a hamburger.
Yeah, well, you got to be more specific. And Garrett said, so for example, Garrett said McDonald's Big Mac. Elijah said Taco Bell Nacho Bell Grande.
Well,
I'm not a big fast food guy, so I don't have. I would have gone with Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. That was Garrett's number 2. I would have gone with that one.
Okay, I got one. McChicken from McDonald's. Okay, the idea being is that you can still get. I mean, if you go to any of the fast food places, including Chick-fil-A, you might as well take out a mortgage to get one of their chicken sandwiches. Now,
That's
which
true.
is like they're like $6 or something like that. Okay, just for the stupid chicken sandwich. Okay, hold on a minute. Excuse me, depending upon which McDonald's you go to, the McChicken can be as I've had it, once again, I'm a connoisseur of fine food, fine fast food. I've had it as cheap as $1.39, and I've had it as expensive as $1.89. But still, it's a chicken sandwich under $2, and it's pretty damn good. It's the McChicken. Okay, how's that?
That's it. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for that plug. I'm sure McDonald's appreciates that. And so folks can go check it out. It is the top link that I have up today on my website.
Okay, and last but not least,
the number 1
member of the squad and Congresswoman Cori Bush has penned a letter, Brad, to Walgreens CEO Tim Wentworth because Walgreens is having the audacity to close a North St. Louis store. It's going to close on April 9th, Brad. Now, you say, why does Cori Bush care about this? Well, I'll tell you why. If Walgreens closes, Brad, we might have a pharmacy desert in St. Louis, number one. And number two, it limits the number of stores that young people can go to or older people can go to and perhaps liberate some items, Brad. Now, Cori Bush didn't say this, of course. She didn't say that it has to do with, let's let people come in and kind of have a free-for-all and take whatever they want from Walgreens. But she pointed out to the fact that so many people in her district are on Medicare and they're on Medicaid, and they need the store in the Jeff Vanderloo neighborhood area, Brad. So there's also a petition going around which essentially says, hey, Walgreens, you're losing a ton of money because people steal from your store, but keep it open. Don't close it. Now, I know what Walgreens should do, Brad, but first, I want to hear your thoughts on this. And had you predicted what the story would be?
No, I find this whole thing very sad. Take a look at the California thing. They changed the law so that under $950,000 or $950 is essentially, back in the day, I think that it might have even been like some kind of a Class D felony under California law. They made it a misdemeanor, like a traffic ticket kind of thing. So in other words, if you're
it means nothing.
Right. If you're walking out of a Walgreens or a CVS in San Francisco and you got $900 worth of junk, the police just say, oh, here, be in traffic court on a week from Tuesday and pay your $50 fine. So you think, okay, I got $900 worth of stuff. It's going to cost me $50, and
it's a great deal.
Right. I'm making $850 profit on this stuff.
It's a beautiful profit margin. Now, I was looking through one of my favorite websites is I go to the Chesterfield Police website. They have their crime reports up because I like to see when folks are tourists from St. Louis City and they come out to Chesterfield, where their favorite stores to steal from are. And Brad, I was there last night. I was looking on the website last night, and this jumped out to me, and I think it's timely for Cori Bush. 3 of her constituents, Brad, on the 27th, I looked up their addresses because I know you're going to be shocked by this, but they've all committed crimes within the last year, Brad. They're all on CaseNet. So 3 of Cori Bush's constituents were caught allegedly stealing from Dick's Sporting Goods, and they were in possession of what I consider STEM materials, Brad, science, technology, engineering, math. They had magnets, they had wire cutters, they're doing all this cool technology stuff. So here's my modest proposal, Brad. Walgreens has a philanthropic arm that's and according to their website, they're focused only on things that are healthcare, improving the health of people in, underserved communities. Walgreens gets together with Cori Bush, and they turn that Jeff Vanderloo story into the Center for Building Urban Scholars' Hearts, the Bush Center.
Okay.
Right in the heart of Jeff Vanderloo. Go ahead, Brad.
Let me drop back a minute here. They stole magnets and wire cutters from Dick's?
They went into Dick's Sporting Goods.
Okay.
And they tried to steal merchandise, but their tools, Brad, were wire cutters and magnets. And the police report says to assist in their attempted shoplifting.
Okay, I got it.
So these are the tools of the trade, Brad. A baseball catcher has a mask and shin guards. A young urban thief has wire cutters and magnets.
Okay, what are they using the magnets for? I don't quite understand that.
My best idea is that they're able to take the magnets and then they're able to remove the anti-theft devices. Most of the when you go through and I would suggest folks Google Chesterfield Mo crime reports, because most of the folks that are apprehended, I shouldn't say most, a large number of them are tagged as having an anti-theft device.
I got it. Okay, so in other words, the magnet will throw off the little.
The magnet will throw off the little thing that. So anyway, Brad, here's what I think Walgreens can do. Walgreens can keep the store open. They can write it off, and think of the 3 of Cori Bush's constituents that were arrested. They shouldn't have to go out to West County to do their to do their STEM stuff. Like you could have there were 2 young women and a guy. Let's say the guy was the getaway driver. He could drive a shuttle to take Medicare and Medicaid recipients to their doctor's appointment. The young woman who had the wire cutters, you know how when you leave the doctor's office, Brad, you got that plastic like a bracelet on? He could, that girl could use the wire cutters to cut off Bernice's or Pearl's hospital bracelet, Brad. There's a way for Cori Bush to have herself be honored with the Building Urban Scholars' Hearts. And as the kicker, Brad, I bet you Walgreens would need some security detail. You think Cori Bush knows anybody that for a reasonable price could provide some security, Brad?
Well, unreasonable price, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
John,
So anyway, here's the thing. The reality is, unfortunately, if you look at, Five Below had their earnings call a couple weeks ago, and they talked about how they've never seen the number of people steal items $5 and below. And so, Target is moving away from self-checkout because too many people are thieving their items. And it's a reality. So why don't you take that location if you're Walgreens, you could write it off and you could do something good for the community.
John is dripping with sarcasm this morning. That's John's sarcastic Combest this morning. You can check out his webpage, johncombest.com, Combest. He has those 3 top items plus, about 25, 30 more today? How many?
Yeah, I'm not an efforting guy, but there's quite a few up, Brad. There's quite a few.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be back, and we'll discuss, we will fix the world, and we won't talk about any other radio stations. So Tracy, you don't have to worry about it anymore, okay?
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?